Hey there, Fellowship family. Welcome to your one-stop shop for all things church life. I'm Mark Francis, once again your host for today. We are excited to share many things with you today in this episode, and I have a team of people here with me who are well-informed and capable of sharing what's going on here behind the scenes at FBC and in front of the scenes. So I'm going to look over here at the end of the table and introduce John Van Drunen. How are you, John?
I'm doing well.
Good.
How about yourself?
Your title's Executive Pastor.
Yes.
That means you cover everything around here.
Whatever other people don't want to do.
Yeah, and that's good. Thank you for being here once again. Your job is definitely behind the scenes, but much needed. So we appreciate all the things that you do.
Well, thanks, and I think that's a lot true for a lot of the staff here that we serve kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah, and allow the body to do the work of the ministry. We're going to cover some of that right now today. So I'm excited about the content that we have. But Abby Linneberg, I have you sitting with me as well.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good. Glad to be here.
Good. And give us your official job description and title.
Okay. It is Administrative Assistant for Student Ministries and Communications.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it. That's a good one. I don't even know my title.
She does a lot of things.
She does a lot of things too. And anything that looks pretty around here on paper, it's with Abby. So thank you for that. Over here to my right is Miss Jennifer Wiseman. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Give us your official title.
Oh, okay. So I am the Communication and Congregational Engagement Manager.
That's another big one.
It's a long one.
Yeah. We won't get into all of it
No.
today. We're going to get into half
Today
of it.
it's just communications.
Good. So this is 4/5 of the FBC Communication team. You are looking at it. We are missing the one, Mike Lukens, who's still on sabbatical.
Yes.
When he comes back, he'll join our team, and we meet on a regular weekly basis to think through the communications here at FBC. It's a big hat that you wear, Jennifer. So thank you for managing all of that.
Yes.
And John, you are part of the team because, again, your role as executive pastor is just to kind of keep the train going down, uphill, downhill, whichever you want to call it. I don't know.
I like to think of it as rowing in the same direction.
In the same direction.
And with a large group, and one of the things I really love about FBC is the multiplicity in leadership. But that also means we have to be intentional in our coordination efforts. And one of the things that I think is helpful to be able to share today is some of the things that have ministry teams and those on staff and the elders have been working on behind the scenes. Our mission is out of a desire to glorify God as a spiritual community. Our mission is to prepare and deploy dependent disciples of Jesus Christ who change their world for him as they're being changed by him. And a lot of times we abbreviate that as prepare and deploy dependent disciples.
Yeah.
But we need to think about the whole element here. And so part of that then is the elders have been engaged in a strategic planning process, thinking through a vision statement. And that vision in a nutshell is about we as a church, we want to be about establishing individuals, and those individuals establish families. The equipping, encouraging, upholding the institution of the family. We're all part of a family of the body of Christ. And that's not a commentary on marrieds versus singles. We're all a family together. And then those families and maturing individuals working together to establish the church. And so one of the things that's really helpful, especially in a larger church context, is what do we focus on? Because there are more time and wonderful things that we could be doing than we have time, energy, and talents to be able to carry out and to do well. And so that's where the strategic planning process has come. There's going to be a link in the show notes as well as out on the calendar website to this document. It's the 2023-2024 Ministry Plan. For
that
those
looks
of you,
very different than any ministry plan in the past.
It has been a new process that
Yeah.
we have been working on for this last year, working towards this new year. And you're right, it is a new thing, and so this is something that we are working through, and we're going to start editing for next year. Already have started editing it.
Walk us through what's a little different, and then even what went on behind the scenes, because many of you who are watching were a part of some leadership meetings that we call the Prepare and Deploy Collective of where you and the elders led us in thinking well in advance of what is leading towards this new fiscal year for FBC, which starts September 1st, which is why the four of us are here to help inform you of what's happening at the church. But a lot went on behind the scenes. Right. Prayer, thought, conversations that led to this document that you have.
Absolutely, and there's been years of thought. We were able to pull from historical documents as well as just strategic planning that the elders have been walking through. And part of this is thinking through our core values. Our core values are really looking at the 5 different elements of what a disciple of Christ is called to look like. And so the first one is loving God fully, and then loving biblical truth, loving the family. The fourth is loving the church, and then loving the world. And so how do we grow? And we're going to unpack those a little bit as we go through this time today. But this core values of that's behind this. And then looking at, okay, based on this mission, vision, and core values, where do we focus?
What do we actually do to accomplish these things?
Right.
And I love how the phrasing in this ministry plan puts it, that we need to be rightly related to those 5 core values. And that's a valuable component of how to grow as a believer in Christ and how to become more like him. Discipleship being a key component, I know, but being rightly related to those things allows you to fall in line with what God's heart and plan is for us as believers.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and there's an upward focus, there's an inward focus, and then there's an outward focus and a beyond focus. And so we'll unpack that. So these mission, vision, and core values combined then to the next grade are the goals. And that's laid out on page 9 and 10 of this document if you guys are taking a look at it. But it is to prepare, the first goal is to prepare new leaders. And I won't go into the whole unpacking of this. The second is to be participating in discipleship. And the primary way we are going about that is through community groups or other similar small groups. As the church grows bigger, we need to grow smaller. The third goal is going to be passing the torch. To allow that next generation to be ready to carry on and run with the torch. The fourth is prioritizing the body, and that's to promote spiritual maturity and to foster meaningful connections among members and attendees at Fellowship Bible Church. And then the fifth is to pursue the community. So prepare new leaders, participate in discipleship, pass the torch, prioritize the body, and pursue the community. And so we'll talk through those a little bit more, and you guys can read more about this in this document, so we won't take the time in this podcast to go through the nitty-gritty.
I do find it valuable, though, to have this accessible to our body, to appreciate and understand a lot of the effort that went in behind it, but then also to understand and appreciate the things that we're about ready to unpack are the events and activities that will be occurring, at least for this upcoming fall and winter season, that make sense of how does it fall in line with this ministry plan? How does it fit? And then think to yourself, how do I fit? How do I fall in line to be able to be used by God to encourage others or to grow myself? And we use the word grow, connect, serve as just kind of a little mantra that fits inside of the mission statement. But we're all called to be rightly related to those 5 core values as well. So there's a lot of content in here.
Yes.
I find that you can dive deep into just what has been put in writing here. So definitely, if you're not looking at it now, I'd encourage you to go take a look at it, because what we're about to describe should fall in line with this. If not, call John. If you think that doesn't fit, give John a call.
No, talk to an elder, because ultimately the elders are the ones that are responsible for the planning. And I think to your mention about the process, that there's over 100 people that have been involved within the collaboration meetings that we've had on these, just speaking into this process, all the different ministry teams. And so on.
One quick question. So there are a lot of things that you might have seen get on the cutting room floor. Different ministries that might have said, we've always done this in the past, or we used to do this, or we should do this? What is the process that if we're somebody within a ministry that has an idea, like we should do a game night, I don't know, pick something for the fun of it,
Right.
and just say, what does that look like now for us as a church moving forward to say, does it fall in line with our core values?
So let me use the example of the Parent Summit that we just had. We're going to be talking about that a little bit, but the Parent Summit was actually born out of an idea last year where we were coming together talking about a special event, a large event. And we started really wrestling across different ministries of what's the intended purpose of this event. Well, really at the heart of this is we want to better partner with parents. And so then it's looking at this and getting almost a multidisciplinary perspective of, well, what are some different elements that we can do to really help move the ball down the field, to use a sports analogy, in that regard. And that was then that Parent Summit. And so it's not always, sometimes it's looking at the function more importantly than the form, and teams collaborating around that.
So
And
an
I think
idea
there's a lot
like
of
that,
value.
didn't just instantly get implemented.
No.
There's a lot of thought and prayer and conversations to then lead to where a year later it came to fruition. And so I think what I hear you saying is that there is some more intentionality now than in the past. And if you have an idea, God could be leading you down that path, and to, like you said, to talk to an elder, talk to the pastor within that kind of world.
Yeah, and
that
I don't
makes
think it's
sense
and I think beyond just intentionality, because I think folks have always been intentional. There's a big focus on and emphasis on collaboration between different ministries, which I've really appreciated, and I think is benefiting the body well.
Yeah. So it's definitely something to think and pray about, of reading through this ministry plan, looking at the things that we're about ready to lay out. So you guys ready to go?
Yes.
Let's do it.
So we're going to categorize our events and activities for these next couple of months within the context of the core values. So let's look at start with loving God fully. So what are the core ministry activities that are wrapped around loving God fully?
So for Loving God Fully, it's, of course, the different venues of worship time that we have. So if you don't know, we have Saturday night, which starts at 5 p.m., and it's in the main auditorium. And then on Sunday, we have 9 a.m., 10:45, main auditorium. And then there is Fellowship 3, which happens at 10:45 in the lower auditorium. Everybody always asks, well, why the second one? It's a smaller venue. It gives it a more of a small church feel. So if that's something that you like, there's still a worship band down there. Now the sermon is videoed, but it is a time to be able to meet some people. So it makes it really nice.
And having 4 different service options is unique. It's
Yes.
helpful. So you have Saturday and Sunday, and you get plugged in, find your core, find your niche.
Yep. And so some of the things that you can participate that are starting out soon is the Fellowship Choir and the Fellowship Orchestra. Rose has done a great job on social media recently to really encourage those two ministries, but they are starting in September, and you'll hear more about them as we go on.
And we want to incorporate them as often as possible. So
Yes.
you're not just practicing for no reason. You'll
Right.
be rehearsing and
Right.
gathering and participating in the corporate gatherings.
Then the next one, do you want me to go ahead and keep
Go
going?
ahead, keep going.
The next one, for Loving Biblical Truth, we have a biblical training center that happens upstairs on Sunday mornings at both the 9 and the 10:45. For those that have never heard Biblical Training Center, it's kind of like a Sunday school that you can go to. There's multiple classes on different books of the Bible. Sometimes they're more topical. Sometimes they're actually going through verse by verse. On our website, you will be able to see all the different write-ups and who's teaching and which classrooms they're in and things like that. But more information will be coming through the website for that.
Good. So those are the first 2 core values, loving God, loving truth. And John, you mentioned that's kind of the vertical component.
Yeah.
And now the next 3 are a little more horizontal, which, by the way, is reflected in the graphic and the image of our logo,
Yep.
which I can appreciate. And we're going to start seeing more of those logo things, even on the stage, maybe. We'll have to see what that might look like. Little secrets out there. But loving the family is the next one.
Yeah.
So what kind of activities and things are related to family?
Yeah, so, well, like John mentioned earlier, we just had our Parent Summit, which was a collaboration of the Family Ministry, Fellowship Kids, and Fellowship students. And again, the emphasis there was to partner with parents in discipling their kids. So we're just here to help. We're here to come alongside the kids, and some of the ways that we can do that specifically in Fellowship Kids is there's Fellowship Kids worship leaders, which is for 5th through 12th graders. And it's just an opportunity for kids who are musically talented to help lead and worship with the younger students. We also have Club 56, which is Wednesdays. That will start in September, but it is the first and third Wednesday at 6:30. And then there's also a Fellowship Kids choir. So you can go to choir, your kids can go to choir.
Perfect.
There's also Fellowship Students, which is our 7th through 12th graders, and they meet on Wednesdays as well at 6:30 to 8:30. Every Wednesday there's something going on. And then we also have a fall retreat coming up in September as well.
So a lot of things that are related to family have to do with the home center as well.
Mm-hmm.
The home center is a hub for plenty of resources that are all related to partnering with parents and assisting families, and tons of things there.
Yeah, and if I can just mention, make sure you're visiting the home center on a frequent basis, especially if you've got kids in the Fellowship Kids ministry, because there's going to be a whole host of new resources coming out. Some of those on a weekly basis that really help you address some of the things that they're going through in their study. And there's a whole host of great resources. Just thinking on the heels of this Parent Summit, there are great resources in that library that you can just use and utilize. Some of them you check out, and others that you can just make your own and start writing on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if we move down the list there of our core values, we hit love the church. Briefly, just touch on that. What does that really even mean, John, to love the church? And then what do we provide for that?
Right. So this idea of how are we rightly related to the church? And this idea is that we are members of one another. And so what does that look like? And that is so countercultural in today's environment. And so how do we help grow in our fellowship, encourage one another to love and good deeds, to care for the needs of one another? It's that community, relational discipleship, and so much more.
And one of your hats is congregational engagement.
Yes.
Define that word for us.
Well, so for me, that is kind of like making sure from the time someone visits here until they are assimilated into the ministry. So assimilation is kind of, the word we're using is congregational engagement, that you're engaged in the body. So joining a community group, being a part of some sort of small group, serving somewhere. We want to see you engaged.
Yeah. And so one of the things I alluded to earlier is community groups. Mm-hmm. As you know, sometimes we hear from folks that have visited, oh, this is such a large church, and we want to encourage you to get plugged into a community group, because as the church grows larger, we need to make sure that we are getting into a group. I had somebody comment to me once, actually somebody I know well, that they thought they would start coming to FBC initially because they could get in, get out, and not get involved. And that is not part of this idea of loving the church. It's how do we grow in this fellowship and be members of one another. So,
and we're not just making that up. I mean, that's scriptural. No. That's biblical.
Oh, yeah.
That's what God's heart is, for people to be connected with Him and to be connected with others. Right. So that's where growth can happen.
Absolutely.
Not to be in isolation.
And so where we are choosing to focus as a church, and this is in that elder plan, is within the context of community groups and other similar small groups. And so that's why at the end of almost every service, you hear an announcement. If you're not in a community group, we would encourage you to get into a community group. And there's opportunities at the back wall. We are at the point today, which I'm so excited about, that we have group leaders ready to serve, and they are waiting for people to join their groups. And then part of that is just part of the ongoing leadership development process that we're working through. And the Lord just bringing people to this congregation that are willing to take that on. And so it's not community groups for the sake of community groups. It's community groups because we think that's going to be the best way to foster that one-on-one or one-on-two relational discipleship between you and another believer. And so once you get into a community group, or maybe you're already in a community group, I want to encourage you, and who can you connect with on a one-on-one relationship within that group and really grow with?
And yes, our kind of new year begins, this new ministry year in September, but that doesn't mean that it starts and stops. This is the only time you can sign up for a community group. That's why the community group wall was created. So there's a visual picture of the community groups that are out there and in existence. So you can call in the middle of November and say, hey, I need to be a part of a community group. There will be opportunities for you to get plugged in.
Yeah.
Is that the best place?
Don't wait.
No, it's just an example. It's just an example. Yeah. But is that the best thing to do? Just go to the community group wall on any given weekend?
You can do that, or you can go to the groups page on the website, and there's a similar sign-up opportunity there, and you can see all the groups with openings and where they're at and get information on that.
Mm-hmm. Now, there are different subcategories of groups. There's men that gather, and there's women that gather. Right. Give us the breakdown of what that looks like.
So we've got 2 different men's groups that gather on a weekly basis, and similarly, they're seeing and desiring to meet as small groups and break into small groups and prayer time and kind of thinking through some of these things. And so on Thursday mornings at 6:29 a.m. is the Crack of Dawn group, and then at 7 p.m. is the Crack of Dusk group. You can find out more information about both of those groups on the website as well. Would encourage you to, if you're not, if maybe a community group doesn't work for you right now, and you're a guy that wanting to get plugged in to fellowship with other guys, both of these are fantastic groups I highly recommend engaging with.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have Women in the Word. They're going to be starting in the second Tuesday in September. There are 2 different groups. Same teacher. We're going through the book of James this semester, but they have an AM session that's at 9:30 in the morning. It starts at 9:30, or there's a PM session that starts at 7 p.m. The teaching's the same. They do break down into small groups, and so it just helps you to get to know women just a little bit better.
And then how about other adult kind of categories?
I think I have that next one.
They're broken down for young adults and seniors. What do we have there for them?
So for the seniors, if you're 60 or older, we have a group that meets the second Wednesday of every month, 10 a.m. This coming September, they're doing I think they're calling it
A homecoming.
Homecoming, yes, that's what it's called. They're calling it a homecoming. And there's going to be a potluck afterwards. So if you are 60 or above and want to get plugged in, we definitely would recommend you coming to that, the second Wednesday in September.
And then for young adults, we have Keystone. So young adults, we define it as 18 to 29-year-olds. And we meet...
Even if I feel young at heart?
Yeah.
They card you at the door, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I won't, but somebody might. And we meet on Thursdays, every Thursday, year-round, so there's not a break there. And that's just a time of worship and fellowship and activities, and we often do things outside of Thursdays like volleyball or hiking and all that kind of stuff. But if you come on a Thursday, you're going to get plugged into all of those opportunities.
So that's why we have a new sand volleyball pit out there. That's great.
Yeah, and when it comes to loving the church, I appreciate your definition of that, John, because it is this kind of joint group effort of rubbing shoulders with each other, spurring each other on to love and good deeds. And there's plenty of opportunities of where discipleship can happen. And I'd encourage you to go back at some of our previous episodes here in the Fellowship Family podcast, because most recently I was able to chat with Marlon Beitzel and Sue Sanford back on June 30th. We released that episode talking about discipleship and a lot of the things that have been going in kind of the prayers and conversations of how can there be more one-on-one, one-on-two kind of opportunities. And then when it goes deeper into more intensive discipleship or more that authentic fellowship component, the episode after that was called Biblical Soul Care. So I'd encourage you to go listen to that episode, because that's where if there is more intense issues within the home or personal things or just trauma or areas that you just need deep conversations, the biblical counseling team is now called Biblical Soul Care. And so we chatted about that. So I'd encourage you to, yes, listen to those episodes to be more engaged and understand what's happening within the church ministries. But then how can you get plugged in as well? And how can you serve with that if God calls you into those areas? But then even beyond that, on any given corporate gathering weekend, there's teams of people who help pull off those gatherings. Whether it be a greeter or an usher or a host at the guest welcome center, like what goes on with that? Those are really easy opportunities where people can get plugged in and feel connected within the life of the church.
It is, and there are some people. There's the lady that's at the south entrance. If you've ever come through before the 1045, Laura Richmond, she is there, and she just has these kids just love her, and they come running to her, and it's just a great experience to watch them get to know some people coming through the door every week.
And it just happens that people show up there each weekend, right?
No, no. These
help people understand behind the scenes.
There is a group, there is a ministry, and you can be a part of that. There are people that get here at 8:00 in the morning and they're making coffee. There are people that are here after that, cleaning up the coffee. These people are turning on the televisions and getting the place ready for you to come in to make it a more welcoming place. But they're there, and there's always opportunities to be a part of that ministry.
Mm-hmm. And the funny thing about sermons and the corporate gatherings, I should say, is they keep coming around week after week after week. And so the more people that can participate in that welcoming ministry and that hospitality ministry, that helps share that burden.
And not just rely on the staff to get it done.
Right.
We alluded to that earlier in this conversation. Well, that covers the first 4 core values. Let's turn the page and move to the last and the 5th one, loving the world. And it takes a little bit of defining, because we're not loving the world as we know it. We always say, there's God in the world, and we don't want to be of the world. We're in it, though. And so how can we still love the people who are around us in the world? So there's actually a couple different ways that we can look at that. 1, locally, and then 2, globally. So here within the context of our local world, Winchester and surrounding areas, we have the local outreach team. So what goes on there? And we have Scott Santmeyer as the pastor of that local outreach. Yeah. What's something that we do on a regular basis that is kind of meant for the whole community?
Right. So on the first weekend of December, if you don't know, we do have something called Follow the Star that happens here. It's a live nativity that people can walk through. There's actors and tour guides and people that are freezing outside sometimes to share the gospel, to share what happened over 2,000 years ago. And so that is going to be coming up December 2nd and 3rd. We are really going to start talking. I know it's not until December, but in September we are going to start talking about that. There's going to be opportunities for people to audition to be a part of it. There's acting roles. And like I said, the tour guides. I know that it's not actually wearing a costume and everything else, but those tour guides are basically the host for like each scene. So it's a really good opportunity to share this story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even beyond Follow the Star, there's a lot of things that go in and around the community that we're partnered with. Lately, we've been talking about this idea of a mentorship program. And being a part of our local Winchester City schools. Yes. So there's plenty of opportunities to get plugged in. You think of our church plants as well. That's part of our goals to reach our community with the Hispanic church, with Ben Santa Maria being pastor there, and then also the church down in Shenandoah where Dennis McNutt is. And it's just neat to see how God has grown this local outreach component in our world, and how we have the Building Bridges focus that is really enhancing that. So
yeah, and just a plug on church planting, if you want to read more about where we're headed in the church planting arena, I know we've talked about it at the last fellowship family meeting some, but again, that's in this ministry plan, so you can keep up with all the latest on that. And there's a lot of different moving components. It's really encouraging to see.
When it comes to global outreach, we have a missions program that is really unlike any other, where we partner with local churches around the world. There's this phrase called being a parachurch organization, and we are not affiliated with that kind of missions program. We literally partner with churches around the world to help establish them and their church and make disciples. And hence, we like to bring some of these people, these partners that we have, into Winchester every now and then, and it happens every 2 years, and it's coming up. It's coming up, guys. So be on the lookout for Global Church Week. You'll hear that phrase a lot. And the word missions and missionaries is not exactly the appropriate phrase, because many of these people who are coming in are just local to their hometown, and they're leaders and church leaders and pastors who we partner with. So we'll call them global church partners, not necessarily missionaries. But how can we get excited about this? Because you think, oh, they're off in a foreign land, and yeah, every now and then our missions teams flies out and sees them. And well, we've at least invited up to 50 people to come into town for this week of October 7th through 15th. And we keep saying, put your calendar out there, but let me give you some more details about what you can be involved with. First of all, the two corporate gatherings that are bookend that weekend are going to be heavily influenced with this Global Church Week. So you're going to want to at least come and participate in the services then. Beyond that, I'm going to highlight a couple of key things you can put in your calendar. That Sunday night on October 8th is going to be a Global Church Worship Night. So if you want to get exposed to a variety of cultures and songs and backgrounds and singing and prayers in different languages, I would just encourage you to come. It's going to be a neat time where we get a chance as a global church celebrate who God is. And yes, we do that every week, but we do that amongst our own little Winchester kind of vibe here of a bunch of us who are all pretty much the same. I'll just stop there before I dig a ditch. But we're going to have, it'll be a neat night of worship. And then the other unique things that I want to point out, on a Wednesday of that week, on October 11th, we want to give you, the church, the opportunity to invite one of these visitors just over to your house. Hang out with them. Take them out to lunch. Take them around town. Maybe show them some of the fun places where you like to shop. You'll have the opportunity to sign up and pick someone who's from a different country and expose them to your world and build relationships with who's in town. We also will have a couple of opportunities for you to hear what's going on with their ministries on that Thursday. There'll be a prayer service on that Friday morning. We're going to have something called a Fall Festival Day, where we'll plant different visitors around the local farmers markets in town. And it'll hopefully be nice weather. We'll go out there and pick some apples with them, and just a way for you to interact and engage with them in a way that is different. And yes, you can probably build relationships and then get their contact information and stay in touch with them for another couple of years until they come back again.
Yeah, and there's going to be opportunities for community groups to connect with them. So, like, I know our community group has kind of adopted one of the missions couples and their family, and just opportunity to get connected with them. So we'll schedule a special community group night for that night or for that week to be able to connect with them. And so, yeah, it's just a great body life engagement opportunity with brothers and sisters from across the globe.
We just want to infuse them into the life of our church while they're here, and learn from them as well.
And Abby's been, for the past month now, maybe 2 months now, working on this brochure. So there'll be a brochure available for you that'll tell you about all the different countries that we partner with, or the different church leaders that we partner with, that you'll be able to pick up in September.
Yeah, and also a calendar
Yes.
that we'll mark until the next time they come back.
Yes.
So there's a lot. We just dumped a bunch on you guys, and that just barely scratches the surface. And so I'd encourage you, if you want to learn more about any of these activities and ministry opportunities that are going on, where do they go?
To our website,
Yep.
fbcva.org.
That's easy enough.
Yes.
We say that, and we say that a lot around
I said
here.
it too fast. I don't know.
That's all right. But navigate it, find those different key things. And if you have any questions, reach out to any of us.
Absolutely. And if you ever just have a question, you can pick up the phone and call the church office, or there's email address there. So a lot of different ways you can connect with us.
But I'll circle back to the ministry plan. We
Yes.
started with that. I want to end with that, because that is going to be the guidebook beyond Scripture. This is going to be our church's guidebook of why we do what we do, which falls in line with biblical understanding of what a church should do and what a church should look like. And then what has God called us specifically here in Winchester at Fellowship Bible Church.
Yeah, a lot of thought, prayer, and discernment of where the Lord's leading has gone into this, and I just appreciate everybody's time and energy that's gone into this. And now we're gonna work through that and start reflecting on things for next year.
Mm-hmm. So in the description, if you haven't found it yet, go to that link. You'll see the ministry plan right there in those show notes. Continue to share this podcast with other people here at FBC. The goal of this podcast is essentially better inform you. It's called Fellowship Family for a reason. We are a family, and we want you to be well informed of what's happening here, and hopefully this episode was informative for you and encouraging. So, John, Abby, Jennifer, thank you so much for being here, sharing all of your wise expertise, keeping the train on the tracks as best as possible.
And thanks for doing what you're doing, Mark.
Yep.
Doing all we can with God's help. Yeah?
Amen.
So thanks so much for watching and listening. Until we chat again, let's let Christ be the focus of our lives each and every day.